Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a real piece of Alaskan history, gold panning. And not just anywhere, we're headed to one of the most famous spots, the historic Dredge 8 gold mining operation just outside of Fairbanks, Alaska. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, thousands of dreamers rushed into Alaska, chasing whispers of gold hidden in the frozen ground. Entire towns sprung up overnight. Fortunes were made and lost, and it all started with just a simple gold pan and a dream. We will actually learn how to pan for gold a little bit later on, so stay tuned for that. So, once gold was discovered, it didn't take long for the demand for a faster, more efficient method for digging up gold was needed. This monster is Dredge 8, a floating gold mining machine that worked the fields here from 1928 to 1959. It's 8 stories tall, and during its heyday it pulled up millions of ounces of gold from frozen ground. Let's listen to our guide as he explains how this machine works.
In operation, these dredges would do 3 simple things. They would gobble up gold-bearing gravel, they'd swallow the gold, and spit out rock. They've got business into this dredge up front, this big piece of iron poking up the front. It's called its digging arm, on top of which is what's called the digging ladder, and it would be surrounded by its bucket line. Now, if these things would dig, they would do so in a manner that very much resembled a big old giant chainsaw blade. But you know how the teeth of a chainsaw cut down into the wood? Well, in this instance, of course, it would be going much more slowly and in reverse, and it would instead be cutting up into the bank of the pond. Now, there was a big industry, these dredges back then, guys. There was all kinds of makes and models and manufacturers of these things over the years, and they would categorize these dredges according to the size of their digging buckets. In this instance, oddly enough, Gold Dredge 8 was technically a Category 6 dredge because each one of those buckets would hold 6 cubic foot of material. The smaller dredges manufactured over the years were number 2s or 3s, which is to say 2 or 3 cubic foot per bucket. The big boys were number 10 cubic foot per bucket. The Gold Dredge 8 had 64 of these number 6 digging buckets in her digging line and a continuous feed, 24/7. Top speed of that bucket line was about 22 buckets a minute. If you do the math in a 24-hour shift, this thing would gobble up, process, and spit out about 6,000 cubic yards of material. That's a lot of earth. As each one of those buckets would scoop up a load of gold-bearing gravel from the bank of the pond, each one would then clunk and clang its way up the top of the digging ladder, depositing each load into the mouth of the dredge called its hopper.
Picture this. Massive buckets scooping up earth, sluicing it with water, and separating out the gold. It was a floating factory chewing through the landscape one scoop at a time. Okay, it's time to find some treasure.
The first thing you want to do then is drown it with lots of water and begin to stir and shake it up vigorously to get it good and loose. This action kind of simulates what was going on inside that cobble, with the water and the agitation helping to create a void or a space between the sands and stones and allows the heavy gold to settle between the spaces to the bottom of the pan. That's where you want the gold to be before you pour anything out of here. So, step 1 is lots of water and lots of shaking. Let's get after it. Want to hear the stones rattle and grind in that pan. This is rock and roll, baby. Jerry Lee Lewis would have made the best gold pan in the world. A whole lot of shaking going on. Now, next, I want to introduce you to this angle. This angle is very important. I'm going to talk about this a lot. These gold pans are designed to be held and used at this angle right here. Let's call that, say, about 45 degrees. What's happening as you start off flat and level and you're shaking the pan, the gold settles to the bottom. You then introduce this angle. The gold has established itself on this bottom plane right here, and with the angle, it then forces it to slide down that plane until it intersects that bend in the pan. That's now the absolute bottom of the pan right now. I also call this the pocket of the pan. Now, it's easier to grasp this if you look at it from a side view and underneath, okay? With this angle, it slides down that plane to that point, right where the water's dripping. Also imagine with this side view, imagine it kind of making like a wide letter V, and we're settling the gold into the bottom of that V, literally the tips of my fingers with that spot. And note that this point is lower than the lip of the pan. The gold is stuck right here. It cannot leave the pan. So we don't want the pan flat and level anymore because that scatters the gold all over the place and you don't know where it is. We keep it at this angle at all times. It then settles to that one spot in the pocket, bottom of that V. We now know right where it is, and you can more easily control getting rid of the sand on top of it. So we do not pan flat. We keep it at this angle at all times from here on out. We keep the angle. Let me hear you guys say that. We keep the angle. That was okay. Let's try that again. We keep the angle. I'm trying to burn that into your brain. You'll have a new skill to put on your resume when you head home. See, gold is one of the densest, heaviest elements that exists on our planet. Anybody here that may have taken notes in physics or chemistry class might recall the specific gravity of gold and what that means. Anybody? Specific gravity of gold is 19.3. What that means is that it's 19.3 times denser and therefore heavier than water. It also happens to be 8, 10, 12, 15 times heavier than anything else in this pan right now. Let's try this one. Anybody here like to go fishing? You know how to use a lead sinker periodically?
Yeah.
Or have you held a piece of gold or lead before?
Yeah.
You know how it has that heft about it that's disproportionate to the size of the thing you're looking at, right? Well, why do you suppose they call them lead sinkers? Because they sink, right? The specific gravity of lead is about 10. So therefore, gold is about twice as dense and heavy as lead. It's going to sink right away. It's already in the bottom in that pocket. And here's how we get rid of the sand on top of it. I stop shaking, pour off that water. I restore the angle. We keep the angle. I can even float the pan right now on the surface of the water. The lip of the pan I've got right on the surface, okay? And at that angle, I'm going to push down into and lift up out of the water. Again, I'm right on the surface at the angle. I push down and lift up. Now let's pause and look carefully at that water. Focus on the water a moment, down and up. Look as it comes in like a wave on the beach and skims just the topmost layer of sand off that pile. There's no gold in that top layer. The gold in the bottom of this pile in that pocket. So we're just going to repeat these two steps now. Step one, I've got it at the angle. I'm shaking it at the angle. Puts the gold in the bottom of the pocket. Step two, we go back to the beach with it, right on the surface. I push down and lift up, dipping it 3 or 4 or 5 times. And we repeat these two things until we're down to a tablespoon or 2. Now, a few words of caution. First of all, we don't want any big stones. Okay, I don't really have many in this pan today, but any big stones we don't want because they disrupt our little beach wave that we're trying to do. So these don't quite qualify, but just for demonstration purposes, like any big ones, I got the same angle. I've got them at the top. I rinse them off, make sure they're clean. You can set them right into the tub or throw those big ones into your neighbor's pan and let them deal with that over there. Back to step one, shaking it at that angle. Step two, back to the beach, down and up. Dip it 3 or 4 or 5 times and repeat. Now, another word of caution or word of advice, at least, if I turn this pan around and I'm panning toward myself and I'm getting after it, what do you suppose is going to start to happen? You're going to get water all down your britches. I see it happen all the time. You'll thank me later, pan away from you into the tub. Another thing I see is folks tend to want to pivot the pan somehow like this. That's rocking the boat way too much. That's all the different angles. We just want one angle, about 45 degrees. Shake it at that angle and dip it at the beach at the same angle. And then finally, folks tend to lose their patience with this and want to think they can speed things up by combining these two steps together. Now, it's important to shake. That's singularly what puts the gold in the bottom in that pocket with this angle. But that's it. Okay, it's important to dip it at the beach. This is how we get rid of the sand. If you get in a hurry and you want to shake the sand and shake it out of the pan, you're shaking everything in that pan. You're shaking gold away too. If you're shaking sand away, you're quite likely shaking gold away too. This method at the beach, dipping it gently down and up out of the water. If you look at it carefully again, this is only affecting the topmost layer of this sand pile. The gold remains nice and stable and steady underneath it all in that pocket. So here I'm shaking it. Step one, the angle. Here I'm dipping it at the beach. Step two, at that angle. One or the other, but not both at the same time. Okay, so when you get down to about a tablespoon, that's good enough. Here comes the final step. I reserve enough water to immerse that little pile fully. I now put the water at the bottom, okay? It's the same angle, I've just reversed it. The water's at the bottom, the sand is at the top. And as if this water were a little marble, I'm going to roll that water marble over the sand and bring it back to the bottom. It brought a bit of sand with it, see? I roll that water marble again, back to the bottom, more sand drifted down. The sands are light. Ignore it. Keep your eyes up here for things that don't want to move. That gold is dense and heavy on the bottom. It's in the pocket. We're now opening the pocket. It's the last thing you see. Eventually, all the light sands and stones are going to drift away, and the heavy, heavy gold remains behind. There's your pay. The rest is just going to be sand on the bottom. We can get rid of that, and you're ready to recover the gold.
They give you a little poke bag of pay dirt. And trust me, there is real gold in there. But just like the old timers, it's up to you to pan it out. The trick is patience. Gently shake the pan from side to side, letting the heavy gold sink to the bottom and washing away the lighter gravel. It's oddly relaxing, like meditation with a prize at the end. Look at that, real Alaskan gold. Not exactly a fortune, but enough to say I almost struck it rich. And hey, they even give you a little vial to keep your gold in as a souvenir. Inside the Visitor Center, you can explore even more of the area's gold rush history. Artifacts and old photos and some pretty amazing gold nuggets are on display. Some of them are the size of your fist. Whether you find a flake or a fortune, Panning for Gold at Dredge 8 is about connecting with a piece of rugged, adventurous history. It's a reminder that sometimes it's not just about what you find, it's about the journey you take to find it. Another interesting aspect of this visit is that we're able to get up close and personal with the world-famous Alaska pipeline. This fin-like structure you see on top of each ground support are actually radiators that conduct heat away from the foundations of the ground supports so that the permafrost doesn't thaw out. From time to time, the entire length of the inside of the pipeline needs to be cleaned out. This is done by sending this mechanism, called a pig, down the pipeline. This sign says that you are not supposed to stand on top of the pipeline. But I did find out that it was sagging a bit in the middle, so I helped out by holding it up. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. And if you wish to support our channel, you can buy us a cup of coffee by using the link in the description below. See you next time.